Okay, we are going to export contour lines, and I have started to clean up this file right here. This is my program diagram, and this is the one that's at 1 to 100 scale. So what I've done is just started to clean up the topography. You can see there's topography lines in different colors here. I've created two different layers just so that I can sort these onto a new layer as I clean them up. And I'll show you just this last bit of it. I'm going to turn off my program diagram. And actually, since we're going to be using this as our topography template, I'm going to do a quick save as. And I'm going to just call this topo export. I like to note in here that it's 1 to 100. And that way, if I come back to work on it, I won't forget. So I'm going to save it. And now I won't accidentally delete the program piece from my actual program diagram, but I'm going to come through and delete all of the layers that I don't need. So program, I don't need that. Tree cover, I don't need that. The water I do need. The parcels I do. I might need them. We'll leave them for now. I'm going to turn them off for a second. The buildings, I think I want the buildings. So I'll leave those. I think they're already in a group. They're already in a group, so that's good. We'll lock that for now. And then I have these two contour layers here. This coastal layer, I do not need. That's the buffer zones. And for my 3D model, I don't need that. I'm going to delete that. And then I've got these two different contour groups that I'm working on. What I'm doing is just pulling these a little bit off of the lines for the right of way. And typically you would not run a contour line down the middle of a sidewalk. So I'm doing some regrading exercise here to put the topography either below or above the sidewalk as part of my cleanup. So I'm just moving these a little bit. This is, if you were doing this in practice, this would be done, a lot more scientifically, but since we're just practicing this, it's fine to sort of move it a little bit here and there. The other thing, this right here, this is a sidewalk. So going at a perpendicular across grades is typical. You don't have to do it for this, but just as a point of reference, we'd always want to be going pretty much perpendicularly to whatever paving we're running across. So I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup, but I want to make sure that all of my lines are connected and simplified. I'm going to do, so these guys are all together. The water line is basically my zero line for the topography, so that's fine as is. I'm going to just, instead of being a solid, I'm gonna make it the same color as this brown one. Actually, I'm just gonna move it. I think it's a, I've right clicked on it. I think actually, okay, so that's good. It's just a closed shape right now. When I checked on it, since there was no additional drop down here, I know that it's a closed shape and not a group or compound path or a clipping mask. So I'm just gonna use my eyedropper tool and I'm gonna make it the same color as this brown guy. For export to DWG, what I want is for all of my shapes to be outlines and not filled colors. Put this back down on this. Actually, I'm gonna call this contour, new contour, because that's my cleaned up layer. And I'm just gonna turn that off. I also don't need my parcel right now. This is the park parcel here. And we've already got that, so I'm gonna turn that off. What I do want is for the right of way, which I've made this sidewalk um slightly lighter. I've made it an opacity. I think I did it at 50%. Yeah, 50% up here. And that's because I wanted to be able to see the topography lines as they run underneath. And this right here is a dock. So I think it'll be easier to explain when I get to this. But whenever there's a footing or something, the topography is actually going to run to the edge of it and then run around it and then catch up. So instead of just connecting straight through, so like for instance, this line here, you can see that the line runs up and around, and then this line too. So you'll get maybe like instead of this being a 2 foot and a 2 foot, you get a 4 foot difference here. And we'll look at what that looks like in 3 dimensions. And then you can see these two lines are not connected. So I'm just going to connect these two. I'm going to use the pen tool. I'm going to select this guy. And I'm going to bring it over the edge. I'm going to run it up to the corner, out to this corner. So this is, you're just running it behind down the edge. And then there's a little connection icon that pops up. And then you'll see the whole line. And look at how many anchor points are on this line. That's too many. So what I'm going to do, all right, so I've got everything that I need. I'm going to close this out. Looks like all of my contour lines are good. The water line is running in front of that. You can see that. Okay. So we're pretty good here. The other thing that I want to make sure of, you see this is kind of messy. Topography lines are not supposed to cross. So I need to straighten this out a little bit before I export this. So I'm just going to move these over. This is one challenge with using satellite data is that sometimes you get contours that cross and you need them to be offset from each other and not crisscrossing. Because each of these are like a section, a plate of the earth. So I'm gonna just kind of move these up and over so that you get a more natural contour line. That looks right to me. So now you can see this line is outside of this other line. So now we have this really nice, pretty even contour group. I've got it on two separate ones. I'm going to move this all into the new contour line. I'm going to get rid of this layer because I don't need it. These are not in a group right now. So when I select, I'm using my selection tool. And when each of these can be selected with one click, that means that I'm not in a group. I need these in a group. I would like them to be the same color just because that's how I am. And you can see there's a lot of anchor points here. So before I do this, I have a couple of options. I'm going to right click and I can use either the simplify, which will come up with this little pop out. I like to always use the advanced panel because then you can really see, it gives you a little bit more control. So this slider right here will change how many anchor points, or pardon me, I guess anchor points and how smooth it gets. So at the smoothest, it's going to look kind of goofy. At the sharpest, it's going to look really goofy. So right now I've got about 2,000 anchor points and it's going to put me at 812. This is important because that distinction is going to matter when you start to mess around in your 3D model. So the other thing to be careful of here is that can sometimes change. Like this one got kind of close together, so I might just move that over a little bit. And I'm going to use my direct selection tool, which is A on your keyboard. And you can see these anchor points get these handles that get really long when you use that feature. But there you go. So now we've got a fairly good looking topography model. No lines are crossed. And I think we are ready to export as soon as we make groups. This is really critical. When this gets exported, you want all of your layers to be in groups because the layers will come in. That's in a group. The layers, if they're not, the geometry gets really messy really quick. That's in a group. Park parcel, I think, is either in a compound path or group. Let's make it into a group just in case. Group it. So I released the compound path and I put it in a group. Water, I've moved the water layer onto that first line of topography, so I don't actually need that. And then the right of way. The other thing that we need to do here is we need all of instead of these being solid fill, we need them to be, the buildings are in a clipping mask, which I think is okay. So, but I need it to be line work and not solid fill. So I'm going to select same fill and stroke. That's the easiest way to do this. And then I'm gonna just swap this out. So I've just switched it from being a solid fill to a line. And then same with this. I actually want the sidewalk to be the solid fill. Okay. And for our purposes, I think we should put all of yeah, I'm going to make this into one group. So I'm going to turn all of these off. I'm going to make this a group Command G or Control G or whatever. I think it's Command G on a Mac, Control G on a PC. Okay, so we will come back in just a second and export this into a SketchUp file.